Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the 617 podcast by the Boston fans for the Boston fans. I am your host, DK Sizzle, here with my longtime cohort, the real BK Bob Kelly. Obviously, we're doing this, Bob, in a kind of a weird week for sports and to be talking about sports. We're recording this on Tuesday the 3rd, obviously Monday Night Football. If you don't know, I don't know where you've been, but it's national news at this point. Damar Hamlin obviously took a hard hit to the chest. I hesitate to speculate on exactly what it is that happened to him health-wise, but long story short, we all had to watch something I've personally never seen happen in a live sporting event. I've been doing this, talking about sports thing for quite a long time. It was pretty shocking. You
didn't know what you were seeing at first. It was
it was kind of hard to process.
What's going on?
Yeah. And I think, as a sports fan, we use sports to sort of forget about real things that are happening, and I think that when stuff like that happens, it's kind of a blow to the system for your average sports fan watching. I can't imagine what it was like for his family and the people that care about him watching live or at home, or what they're going through now, because as of the time of recording, he's still in critical condition at the hospital. Obviously, they saved his life by responding as quickly as they did at the time. Forget all the different stuff that people have been talking about today. Anything we say would just be speculation. I just wanted to sort of mention it because I think because we're a sports podcast and we're New England centric, but I just think obviously our thoughts are with him and his family. It's kind of weird to chop it up about the Celtics with you today because I think the entire collective sports world was a little bit traumatized witnessing that yesterday. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of debate about, football safety and sports and the NFL and all that stuff, but we're honestly not here to talk about that. I just hope he's a 24-year-old kid and in the prime of his life, and I just really hope he comes back and he makes it.
That's what it comes down to, man. It's I don't know about you, but I watched that clip last night. I watched it a few times, kind of trying to figure out what
I sort
happened.
of stopped watching it after a bit because it was starting to get to me a little bit.
But that's where I got to exactly that. It's eventually it sends a chill up your spine. It just kind of, I don't know about you, but I felt my mortality a lot more today.
Yeah.
To see someone in such good health and things like that, and a professional athlete, this dude has been in such a athletic shape his entire life, and have it to be such a freak accident to have that happen. It makes you feel your mortality a little bit more, especially when you have guys that are superheroes. You know what I mean? That's what we look at these guys like. And for something like that to happen, it really, like you said, it's mind blowing. The brain doesn't know how to process it. You know what I mean? It's tough.
I mean, you got kids too. I can't imagine what it was like for his mom. It's just I can't. She's probably been watching him make fucking plays his whole life, and
it was such a routine. You know what I mean? You see it, and you see just everyone surround around him, and you're like, what's going on?
I just feel like that's the weirdest part of it too. It's I feel like I saw what I would have if you take away the consequences, I feel like I saw 5 worse tackles than that, 5 scarier hits than that across football weekend. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not a fucking doctor, far from it, but I don't know if it was just where he got hit and it fucked up the rhythm of his heart. And, they were saying today he had to be resuscitated twice on the field.
10 minutes.
Yeah. But anyway, regardless, I'm glad they did what they did by stopping the game. I don't know where they're going to go from here. Obviously, we're here to talk about the NBA tonight. We had a discussion on whether or not we should sort of push this back because it is kind of a strange thing. It does feel a little minor to be talking about the fate of the Boston Celtics after seeing something like that happen. But I think we just decided to do it in sort of the hopes that chatting about sports is the norm again after something like this happens. And if he pulls through, then it's not a tragedy. So obviously, everybody here at the 617, everybody involved with the podcast is very concerned and wishes Hamlin and his whole family everything we can give, which unfortunately is not much, but I can't imagine what they're going through right now. And I'm sorry to start the podcast off on such a bummer of a note, but I don't know, man. I felt like if we didn't mention it, we would seem like monsters. So, and we've been talking about it for
we don't
since
need to
last
be
night.
the Skip Bayless of the amateur podcast world.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's
So, I mean, if we can possibly switch gears, you know, I'm not trying to milk content out of that, out of what happened. So I don't really want to sit here and like talk about, you know, speculate on it or speculate on people, how people reacted. So just wanted to say that for, you know, the first couple minutes of the show. And now we're going to talk about the C's. So tough left turn, but at least they're doing well. Bob, the Celtics had what I would call a pretty solid homestand after a pretty difficult West Coast road trip, of which I spent my hard-earned dollars to go see.
It was rough.
Got some good seats for that Clippers game too, and they got fucking
saw Paul
punked.
George go off, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it was like one of the first times that Paul George and Kawhi were actually like playing together and playing well, and they played out of their minds. They played great. The Celtics looked like shit on that whole road trip. And it started to become there's a few things I think that started to worry us on that trip. And, you know, we don't do Celtic shows together quite as often as we do football shows. So we're checking in over. Say that again.
At least not lately.
At least not lately. I mean, it's football season takes up quite a lot of the sports podcasting docket, it turns out. But we are talking about the C's again and over a sort of larger swath of time. I guess overall, I would be curious what your thoughts are on the season so far. I'm pretty positive about it, especially since we reacted to that shitty road trip with a pretty solid homestand and some big wins. I think Tatum's still probably in the race for MVP, probably in the top 3 for MVP at this point. I think the most beautiful thing to watch in a basketball game is Jaylen Brown stop and pop in the mid range. It's my favorite thing that happens in my day when I watch it happen. So I'm pretty positive about it. I don't know about you. I know that we were supposed to have our good friend and third member of the sort of regular basketball crew, Ray-Sean Buchanan, here, but he had some computer difficulties. He's never usually quite as optimistic as we are, so we just get to just be all sunflowers and rainbows on this one. Unless you have a more negative take on the season as a whole, how are you feeling like we're doing?
No, I mean, I think people need to remember. So a couple things. So I've seen a lot of criticism that kind of mirrors what Udoka was seeing last year with Mazzulla, where he's like, you know, he's letting him run too much, he's letting them take over the game too much, he's not taking control as a coach, blah 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 blah. I think it kind of compounds into one point where it's like, listen, this 82 game season is an absolute grind.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, and we are in the midst of that grind. Where, you know, like baseball, they say like the dog days of summer, the dog days of August and July. That's where we're at with the basketball season right now. Like every single night is just an absolute grind for these guys to go out there and perform. And it's tough for me to fault them for coming out flat against teams that they're just superior than. You know what I mean? And like I get it when it comes down to nut crunching time. Like this isn't the type of team that we need to see to compete with the elite in the NBA, the Bucks, the Warriors, you know, that whole group. But at the same time, it's like, guys, you gotta appreciate the fact that this team is still the best team in the NBA, right? Regardless of their flat points or regardless of what we've seen so far, they're still the best team in the NBA, and they're still a force to be reckoned with on any given night. I mean,
I think like the
this
fact
being
that
said,
they're
as
the
we're down
best team.
13 to the Thunder, but
Yeah, and that is rough. But I think the fact that they are the best team in the NBA, on record at least. I mean, I'm sure people would argue the nuances in that. But that's for, you know, a podcast that isn't consisting of just 2 Celtics fans. We have the best record in the NBA, and I just feel like that does put a little bit of a target on your back. I feel like if you're Oklahoma City, for example, or Orlando, or, you know, some of these teams that we probably on paper should be beating but aren't, if you're gonna get up for any game, you're gonna get up for the game when the best team comes to town. You're more likely to be on TV. Your highlights are more likely to hit Twitter, or I don't know, is Twitter still a thing? Is Elon Musk running into the fucking ground yet? Your highlights are more likely to end up on the internet somewhere. And yeah, I think that does motivate players to when you're coming up against elite competition, you are more motivated to play. Now, that being said, I wouldn't want to use that as an excuse. We should still be beating these teams.
Agreed.
But I think that homestand, like you said, I mean, the dog days of fucking January in the NBA, that homestand is, you have to sort of start breaking these games up into groups, oh, this road trip, this homestand, or like, oh, these back-to-backs against these teams, or like, oh, we have a tough run coming up against this team, this team, and this team. You have to start breaking them up into groups and looking at the bigger picture, not the big picture. I mean, the big picture is good. We've only lost 11 games at this point of the season. That's better than anybody else, but a slightly zoomed out photograph of what's going on. And when you look at what I think we did in this homestand, I think it shows that, yeah, I think there is a physical fatigue that will take a toll on an NBA team to this point, but I also think there's a mental fatigue. And I also think there's a mental fatigue for a team coming off a losing finals run. So I think if and they also lost their head coach. And I think that if you factor all that stuff in and you take them for where they are right now, I'm pretty happy and proud of what they've accomplished. That being said, I still am pretty worried about our ability to rebound the basketball when Rob Williams isn't on the floor. Like, for instance, as we are having this conversation, he's not in again. He was basically making the case with the quality of the minutes he was putting in for being a starter again. And now he's missed another game. I'm not entirely sure what the details of that are. Sometimes I just don't want to look at it because it makes me upset. But the difference between them with Rob and without Rob is basically the difference between being able to rebound and not being able to rebound. So I guess I'll ask the same question of you. Are we rolling the dice going into a postseason with Rob Williams as like a really important part of our ability to win, especially a 7-game series against anyone that has size against us, and especially without Brooklyn looking right now, and especially, I mean, I know we fucking smashed Milwaukee on Christmas, which was very entertaining game, and I really enjoyed it. It was a real great poster for how good of a player Jayson Tatum is. It was a real Kobe Bryant level performance. Really super efficient, and wow. Yeah,
it's a great comparison.
He looked like fucking he looked like Kobe having a good game out there. That's what it looked like to me.
He even took it to that next level where like it wasn't just the points and the domination, but
right?
He actually had a poster.
Yeah, he had a poster. I mean, it was his efficiency numbers were super high. His shooting percentage was like 68%. It was. It was like a slightly more efficient even Kobe Bryant. So I really enjoyed watching that. But even with those wins, I do still see holes. So I guess my question to you is, are we taking a huge risk relying on Rob Williams' health, knowing that if we don't have him in there, we have a huge vulnerability?
I feel like the fact that we've been having the same exact goddamn conversation for the past 3 years is like...
It's annoying that we know it and they don't seem to want to address it.
Yeah, of course we're taking a risk. You know what I mean? Like, of course. And I don't know what to do to rectify it at this point. I mean, we have a talking point later that could possibly, but like, not any vet that comes in here that's not on a team right now, or like any significant move. I don't know. It's got to be something significant to help this team with the rebounding, man, because they do not. It's not even like they have like a subpar average center. Like, Al Horford is good in moments at center, but he's not a center. He's a power forward. You know what I mean? That's what he is. And the fact that we legitimately do not have a backup center on this team, even Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin is not a center at trade. He is a power forward.
Also, you can't expect to win a championship if you're relying that heavily on Blake Griffin. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
I mean, I love to have him as a role player. He's had vintage moments. We've had fun talking about him. I've had fun watching him. But if we're going, oh, it's cool, we got Blake going in to play Milwaukee in a 7-game series, or Brooklyn in a 7-game series, or I mean, there's teams across the NBA I wouldn't want to see in that situation. The Pacers, the Nuggets. I mean, we look like we
the
have
Nuggets,
no
the
answer
Nuggets
for Jokic.
are that's where the concern is. You know what I mean? You have an elite center there, and it's like, I know we have Embiid's number. I know we have these guys' numbers, but like, bro, when these guys are on their game, we literally do not have an answer for him.
It's
Don't
weird
have
too
an
because
answer.
I'm just not as worried if Rob's in there. Like I just feel like we
Agree,
can beat
agree.
anybody if we're fully healthy, but I just don't know how often that happened. The rumor is, I mean, listen, I'm pro Boogie Cousins. All right. I like him when he's on his game, when he plays well. I think he looks great. When him and AD teamed up in New Orleans, I thought that was going to be the funnest fucking basketball team to
The
watch.
Renaissance, bro. It was the Renaissance of
Yeah,
Boogie.
but nothing really happened.
I think Boogie tore his ACL or
Boogie tore his
Achilles?
ACL, but also like the reason that
Achilles?
he fucked something up. But the reason that he's not an NBA team right now is not because of his physical health. And I'm curious what you would say to, I mean, look, we're waving Noah Vonleh and bringing in Boogie Cousins. So we're not saying that he's going to come in and play starter minutes and we're going to start building rotations around him. We're saying, like, give the guy a shot. He was clearly a very talented athlete, and he might be a prick. That seems to be the kind of overall news report on what he's like. The question I have for you, I mean, I'm obviously all in. I've always liked him. He's the exact kind of player I like. I've been fucking banging the drum on getting a guy his size with skill for a million years. He could spell Al. He can spell Rob. We can still play our way with him. We don't have to like, we're not all of a sudden just getting like a 7-foot center in. We're gonna have to change everything we do. I'm not getting DeAndre in there. It's a different kettle of fish. So is it worth taking the risk considering the chemistry is going well right now? That's something we have pretty much on lock. Everyone seems to like each other. We don't have any more Kyrie fallout. Do you drop that nuclear bomb into the locker room for a chance at maybe having a good rotation guy come May?
My question is, are we at the point now where that doesn't matter? I think we might be to where, even if you bring him in and it does mess up the chemistry or it does have some kind of effect on, effort level, whatever the case may be, I feel like that would get phased out and taken care of immediately. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like the drive behind this team is beyond the point where they can have something toxic come into that locker room and actually affect them. If anything, I feel like Boogie would come in and see what's going on and react to that positively. You know what I mean? Because like you look at what happened with Blake, bro. Blake was so bought in on this team within 72 hours of being with this group of guys. Like, you know me, man. I'm sitting here just I'm the most positive Celtics fan of all, and, like, I see the culture being built here, and, like, I've been talking about it for years, but, like, the culture that's being built just seems so real, and it doesn't seem fake, again, as we're losing by 15 to the Thunder, but, like, it really it really doesn't seem like it's a fake, like, a fraudulent, we're trying to win a championship vibes. This
Mhm.
seems legit, and it seems like where this team is heading. So I feel like you bring Boogie in here, and if he was actually an integral part, you get him to buy in. Yeah, bro. How good would that be for Boogie's legacy? You know what I mean? Like right now, he's one of the most controversial, talented players of our generation. If he came into a Celtics team and helped us to a championship because, even if it was like 3 games, bro, 2 to 3 games in that playoff run where he goes 17 and 10 and just, takes over 5 minutes of gameplay, that's gonna affect every way everyone how they look at Boogie. It really is. So, I just feel like you could sell him on that. I don't I feel like it's a solid gamble, bro. Considering what you get
You bring him in and talk
Noah
to him, right?
Vonleh?
You bring
Noah
him in and
Vonleh?
talk to him.
Yeah, you
You
talk to the
bring him in
dude.
and talk to him, you get a read on it. I mean, I forget who was I wish I could remember who it was I was watching a little clip of an interview not too long ago it was one of the GMs, one of the NBA GMs, and he apparently was talking to Boogie Cousins, and Boogie was like, "Why am I not on an NBA team?" And he was like, "Because you've done so much PR damage to your image that nobody thinks you're worth it, despite your talent. Plus, he had a couple injuries, so the scale gets tipped in the wrong direction, and it's like the crazy hot scale for a girl. Like Boogie Cousins is on in the crazy to talented scale. He's just finally jumped over to the other side of that dividing line, and I think you bring him in and talk to him, and you just see if maybe the stint away and the fact that he's looking down the pipe of being either not remembered at all or remembered as somebody who fucked their career up. And you see like, hey, can you come in and be like an end of the bench guy and work your way up? Like, can you take the bus with like Peyton Pritchard for like a few weeks and hang out with those guys and like not really be hanging around with Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart until like you just work your way in? Are you capable of that? And you basically give him a job interview, right? And then you just cut him. Like it's not as if we're inheriting any sort of contract or any sort of like risk as far as the financials go. I didn't really plan to spend this much time on Boogie Cousins, but I'm getting excited about the thought of it because I've always liked him.
I mean, I just don't know where else they're gonna go. You know what I mean? Like, I just hope that
Well, I mean, a trade package with Grant Williams in it is still. I mean, I know people like Grant Williams now. Whatever. I mean, you can trade Grant Williams, guys. Like, it's fine.
You're gonna get hate for that. We're gonna get called.
I don't care.
That.
Like, it's just a fact of fucking basketball. Like, you can't be going into a postseason being like, guys, we can't trade Grant Williams. If we lose Grant, we lose it all. Like, it just doesn't work like that. Like, you're relying on your 3 to 4 to 5 best players to win you a championship. And everybody else is about filling holes and taking minutes off the important guys. Grant Williams, I'll give it to him. Let me give you a little positivity on Grant Williams before I do this. He's great when nobody's guarding him to shoot the 3 ball. When no one is anywhere near him.
Corner 3, bro.
That corner 3, when no one is anywhere near him, that's a lethal shot. It's really good when no one is anywhere near him. He seems to be less disliked by the rest of the team lately than he has been for the majority of the time he's been on the team. He's going to go in the offseason and try and get the kind of money that maybe like a Draymond Green was getting at this point in his career. And Draymond's not even that well paid now, but like considering the shit that he's done, he hasn't been exactly taken care of by the Golden State Warriors like a lot of other guys were, and probably why he punched Jordan Poole in the face, considering the bag that he was getting that offseason. But I feel like, I mean, am I wrong?
It was a hell of a punch.
Oh my God. I mean, it was a sucker punch for sure, but God damn did he send him to the shadow realm. So I just feel like Grant Williams, like he's going to want more money than we should be giving him anyway, right? Like that seems to just be a fact of the conversation. So we need to be preparing for a Grant Williams-less existence anyway. Don't you think we should be trying to get something for him? Something? Because he's the only tradable piece as far as I'm concerned. Like, yeah, you can throw Peyton Pritchard in there. Sorry, I know you like him a lot, but like, let's be honest. Yeah, you can throw a couple other, we have a trade exception we could still throw in there, maybe like a pick or something. But I do feel like we need protection at the center position, and I feel like there's guys that can do what Grant Williams does. It's not irreplaceable. Like, am I blaspheming right now? Do you really think it's like that horrible to say this?
No, I don't. I just feel like you're right when he's easily the most tradable piece from what we have. I just get scared about doing that to a team that is connected and is a family kind of.
I don't think they like him. Have you ever seen him speak and then like what the rest of the huddle looks like? I feel like they're like, okay, Grant.
But do you think the 2011 Celtics liked Kendrick Perkins?
Yeah, no, I do. I definitely do.
You do? Okay.
Well,
okay.
If
that's what scares me. Honestly, it might be PTSD.
If we're talking about the 2008 to 2012 Celtics as the ideal in our lifetimes for team chemistry, right? Like,
I mean, yeah, that's
if the
right.
Mbutu, like, Eddie House gets on the broadcast on NBC Sports and he's like, "What's up, Scal Mbutu?" And it's like, they're still just like,
when I see it.
they're still just like that, right? Yeah. And then like, Rondo has a blood feud with Ray Allen for like the remainder of time because of how all that like went down and how close they were all supposed to be. If that's the standard, I don't think we're even there anyway. But also, like, Kendrick Perkins could rebound. So, like, I don't give a shit. Like, I was keeping Perk. Like, I was fucking keeping him. Look what happened in that game 7 when he got fucking hurt. We couldn't get a fucking board to save our lives. Like, that was
killed.
Yeah,
that's what cost them that game.
Yeah, we could not.
Literally, what cost them
the rebounding was pathetic.
Like in that
Gasol
game, and Andrew Bynum stole an NBA championship.
Oh my god, unbelievable! And I feel like, I still feel like we should have three-peated if it wasn't for that fucking rebounding fiasco in KG's knee
series. Yeah,
but we can't talk about that right now.
Digress.
I digress. But like, I just think like Grant Williams isn't as important to this team as Kendrick Perkins was to that team. I think that's pretty. I think that's pretty true.
Okay, fair.
Look, I understand the people that like.
It's a pretty close correlation to make, right? I mean,
it's the closest you can get right now. He's probably a little bit more like Jermaine O'Neal than he is Kendrick Perkins, though. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, kind of more offensive than.
Yeah, and also like, Perk was averaging like 1.3 points a game by that point. Like, it's not. He was there to rebound the ball, maybe, like, and defend true centers.
Period. Yeah.
I mean, he had his moments, but goddamn, that man was not there to score.
You ever see the clip of I forget who it is on ESPN, but it's like Richard Jefferson, Tracy McGrady, and I think it was Vince Carter. It was Richard Jefferson, Vince Carter, and Kendrick Perkins, and combined they had like 56 30-point games in the NBA. Kendrick Perkins had 0 of those, and the commentator literally sat there and was like, "All 3 of you have combined 56."
Yeah, I have seen.
Hey,
this.
Perk, how many do you have?
I mean, honestly, good for Perk, for sort of continuing his career as one of the basketball legends, talking about basketball on TV.
It's so funny
to see him next to Charles Barkley or Shaquille O'Neal or something. It's just like, come on, that was not on the same level. I love
when Shaq or Charles Barkley have to actually comment on something that Kendrick Perkins said in his opinion. I'm like, bro, you know what, Perk? You know what? Good for you, man.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Perk was like the leftovers when they made Shaq in the lab. This is like everything that he's like, all right, well, we couldn't use all of it. So we got to make another guy.
Free throws? No, he still can't fucking shoot free throws. But like,
talk about that. Like, I mean, that was the last era Kendrick Perkins could have played basketball. Like, he would not be in the league right now. He just couldn't do it.
He'd be gone. Yeah.
Oh man, poor guy. We really just slaughtered Perk for no reason there. But yet, he would have been the reason we won a championship had he played in that game. It's like these are the ironies of life.
But that's what scares me about Williams, because like he's such a versatile defender, and at the same time, like,
because everyone's always like, oh, he's the one that can kind of guard Giannis. It's like, really? Because I'm pretty sure I still saw Giannis get like 35 whenever he wanted.
When Tatum or Brown is off the court, who's going to cover a guy like fucking Aaron Gordon? Who's going to cover a guy? You know what I mean?
I just don't think that. I mean, look, I feel like I get why we have to think about this stuff. I do understand it, but it's like the reason we didn't beat the Golden State Warriors. People were like, "Oh, Grant, like Draymond's like doing this." It's like, no, dude. Like Tatum. Stop being Tatum. Like that's how you win. It's like, who's going to be better, Steph Curry or Jayson Tatum? And Steph Curry was better more times than Jayson Tatum was. Like, that's what happened. And there was like a lot of nuance, and there's a lot of ways to like eke out games, and it's not 100% down to that, but it's like more of a percentage, I think, than people realize. And it's like, who's going to guard Aaron Gordon? I don't care. Like, someone. Someone will guard him. I don't know. We'll figure it out. It's fucking playoffs. You get what I'm saying now.
But who's going to guard Jokić? So
yeah,
so who's going to guard Jokić?
That's what I mean. Though it's not Grant Williams. It's not fucking Grant Williams is going to guard you.
Because Rob, I agree. So full circle, I completely agree, because Rob Williams isn't going to be able to guard Jokić for a 7-game series.
We got to do it by committee, and I feel like if
3 games,
well, you're going to have to guard him by committee anyway. So you're going to have to throw Rob at him. You're going to have to throw Al at him, and the third guy we throw at him, I want to not be Grant Williams. If that makes sense.
Agreed. No, I'm with you. Okay.
Because also, like, look, I mean, I feel like we're really slaughtering the guy, but like, yes, that shot is fine, and it's a good 3-point shot, and his efficiency's gone up, and he's had really good stretches of this season. But I don't know if he does offensively anything more than Derek White or Malcolm Brogdon. Like I just feel like those guys can take those shots. Like, and I'm fine with it. I'm just completely fine given all of those shots been divide them up between those two guys and Al Horford.
So to be
Anyway,
perfectly honest, I don't know anything about what this stat means, but so I'm going
that's
to
what we
leave
do
with
here on
that,
the
right? Yeah.
617.
So right now, I'm seeing Grant Williams is the most statistically, is the most versatile defender in the NBA. So like, if we're gonna peak him up a little bit and perk him up a little bit here, you like that innuendo, little perk innuendo? Um,
I'll grant you this moment. That's fine.
double. He does have a 20%. I literally don't know what this means. Time on defense guarding center percent, 20%. And he is a top 5 defender at guarding centers in the NBA, which is a
This
very
is
surprising statistic to me. But
that is shocking. That is shocking. I mean, if you want to be the advanced analytics guy and blow my whole argument out of the water, I think that's fine. But we're gonna take a break
because I can't explain that advanced analytics.
Yeah, I don't really
We'll
get
take
it,
that
but it sounds. I mean, it's like, oh my God, Kobe Bryant, he retired. He had all these championships. Grant Williams, he retired. He guarded centers 20% of the time, and when he did a really. It's like, come on, dude. Like, you're either fucking a baller or you're not. So this isn't baseball. So we're gonna take a break. When we get back, we're gonna talk about Joe Mazzulla. You know what the best part about having NBA League Pass, Bob, is when we go away, like right now, I have it on my TV, and we're obviously away getting fucking housed by the Oklahoma City Thunder without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which is A, disappointing because I really like him watching him play basketball. I've been enjoying his game all year, and B, we should be beating them, which we sort of talked about at the start of the podcast. But best part about having NBA League Pass, and this is not a plug. I know this is not a plug for League Pass. I got it free with my NBA 2K purchase, but when we're away, I get the crazy halftime shows instead of the fucking commercials.
We're like, right, where they actually show you what's inside the stadium.
Yeah, I'm watching this bananas halftime show where this guy has basically made a living with like prefabricated pieces of metal and like how high can he stack them up and then stand on them. Like, that's a fucking halftime show. It's amazing. Like, if I'm high enough and I'm watching the random Celtics game on a Tuesday night, like right now, and I'm not recording a podcast, I'll be just sitting here just like, oh man, that's pretty impressive. Is he going to be all right up there? So I never go to the bathroom or get beer during NBA games. I'm always like, when's the halftime show?
Bro, that's my favorite part about halftime shows, or like even commercials in League Pass, where it's like you're in the stadium, right? That's the best part, bro, because like they don't show commercials; they show like the fans. Like,
I'm kind of nervous. I'm going to get on the kiss cam half the time, but I'm not really there.
Yeah. So best NBA, quick tangent. Best NBA League Pass team. You have it. I have it. It's the Kings, right?
I like watching the Kings. Yeah. I've watched a few Kings games. Maybe I should watch more. It sounds like you're all in on it. I'll be honest. I've watched a lot of the Nuggets.
Nuggets are
because
fun to watch.
I mean, Jokić is just like fun to fucking watch.
It's just every night, man. Every night it's Jokić night.
The best part about League Pass right now, and again, we're not plugging League Pass, but if anyone out there is on the fence, the worst NBA team right now is fun to watch. Like, the worst NBA team right now is fun to watch. And
the Hawks, fun to watch. So
fuck it. I'll watch the Hawks. Like, I don't care. I'll watch the Bulls. Like, yeah, sure. Like, what are the Bulls up to? I'll watch the occasional Clippers game when like one of those two corpses is dragged out onto the fucking floor and actually plays. The Nets, by the way. I mean, I know I've been like
they're fun to watch right now.
KD, my whole podcasting career, but like, goddamn, the Nets are something. And we are going to talk about that a little bit later. But I wonder. Basically, I wouldn't call it news, but like it came out today essentially that like we're not quite there with taking the interim tag off Joe Mazzulla. I guess I want to know your thoughts on the kind of basketball we're playing under him and how much of an impact you actually think he's having. Like, I'm starting to think that this team was going to just be this team now based on everything they've gone through, no matter who is the head coach. And like Joe being out for a few games and some of the stuff that they said when that happened kind of made me feel that way. He's a little clappy, which I know you have like post-traumatic stress over when you see a coach who's just like clapping all the time. We don't have to go into that.
I honestly have been sitting here for like 2.5 weeks waiting for that reference to come up because like
About Joe Mazzulla specifically?
Yeah, about Joe Mazzulla specifically, yes. Because he does remind me a little bit of him, where it's like,
He who should not be named, Jason Carey.
yeah, no, we're not gonna talk about who he is, but, like, it just seems like at points where listen, I like Mazzulla, I like the job he's doing so far, but I completely agree where it's like, the talent that's here is the talent that's here, and I don't think he's doing much to elevate it. I think he's doing just enough to stay afloat with this team, and I don't blame the Celtics for not removing that interim tag. I
You
don't think
feel like the green light you're like, I mean, I've heard this, like, this is a little bit like fucking comment section, but I don't 100% disagree with it. Like, he basically has given everybody the green light to shoot when they're open.
yeah, 100%. He is at the point where he saw what the team was last year, and
Yeah.
I don't think he feels the confidence and they don't have the respect to listen to him when he tells them that they need to pull it back. You know what I mean? Like,
I do, and I'm worried about that. I feel like we need that.
yeah,
Like,
I
from time to
agree.
time, I feel like we need that. I feel like when we're down 6 to 9 points, I feel like is when Ime Udoka was really good, in
Yeah,
the second half of the season.
yeah,
Like, when it was, like, 9 points and Marcus Smart would take a dumb shot, and then we would, like, call a timeout. And it was like, what were we talking about in the scrum? Hey, Marcus, like, come on, man. We're not gonna there's no magic bullet. We're not just gonna get into this with, like, one big three. It's like, we're gonna work our way inside. And, like, we've been so much better about that. But then a lot of the annoying losses this season, and again, I'm positive about the season as a whole. Like, I'm not saying that there's giant, tactical holes in how we're approaching basketball games. I just think that as much as this team's been together a long time and they've done a lot of great shit together and they've gone really far for their ages, like, our best player is still 24. You know, it's like we need a head coach to be like, "Hey, man, don't do that for a second. Like, just keep a cool head and just and get us there." I think it matters a little bit less than in other sports, but specifically right now, like, if I'm not saying fire Joe Mazzulla. I'm not saying that. I think he's doing fine. You can't justify that. But, like, in an ideal world, a veteran coach that wasn't trying to reinvent the wheel, but from time to time knew a little bit more about, like, when to call timeouts, what they were doing rotation wise, when guys needed rest, when guys didn't know they needed rest. Just a guy who's just seeing the stuff, would probably be a little bit more efficient for the team right now. Do you agree?
yeah. No, I think it has less to do with Tatum and Brown than it has to do with the rest of the team. Like a
Yeah,
Marcus, exactly
sure.
like you said, like a Marcus, where it's like Tatum and Brown are gonna be Tatum and Brown when they're on all the time. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, those 2 guys to me are it doesn't matter who coaches them necessarily, where
Yeah,
it's
at this
like
point, I don't think it does. I think their
yeah,
game is their game. Yeah,
those 2 are those 2.
they've
But
figured it out.
when it comes to Marcus and shit like that, like, that's what really affects his team. It's like when Marcus is off, when Brogdon's off, when fucking Rob is off, when Horford's off. Those are the guys that you need to be able to reel in and be like exactly like you said, like, "Marcus, what the fuck are we doing here, bro? Like, let's see the big picture. Let's look at the offense and see what we need to run." And that's exactly where you're right. Where Udoka would I mean, you remember back in the finals where or I think it was the Eastern Conference Finals actually, where he called the timeout, and the
Mhm.
only thing he said to that team was, "What the fuck are you guys doing?"
Yeah,
I think he specifically went to Marcus and was like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
yeah.
And Marcus reacted to that, and it was a whole different ballgame from there. I
I
think it
think
was actually
Marcus I
game
think
7.
Marcus is, you keep touching on Marcus, and I think that, like, the thing that Ime Udoka did the best, the longest serving
His coaching.
upside
Yeah,
of what he did to Marcus Smart. Like,
agreed, agreed.
I feel like he made him understand 2 things at the same time, and that's something that I didn't even really understand. I didn't even really know what I wanted from Marcus Smart. He made him understand that he was the 3rd best player after Jalen and Jason, which I don't think he was fully convinced of. And he made him understand that they weren't as good without him.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think
that's perfect, that's
the
perfect.
the the kind of and it's true that they aren't. And the
Yep,
kind of guy that Marcus Smart is, he needs the one to balance out the other. Because I think if you just go like, "Dude, you gotta accept that you're 3rd best," he'd be like, "Fuck that." and he would just go and try and be the best. And there'd be nights of him trying to do that. There'd be nights where he would go insane. I'm not saying that wouldn't happen, but you're not winning a championship with Marcus Smart as your best player. You're just not.
No.
So that's not here. We're not here to debate that. So sorry, everybody.
Can you
sorry.
imagine that team? Wait. Can we just take a second and imagine the team with Marcus Smart as their best fucking player? Listen,
Yeah, I mean,
Marcus
listen,
Smart,
I think there's been moments where we have seen that team.
Yeah, it would be the funnest team, but it would also be the most frustrating team in the history of the
I would love to put together like a remake of like a few years ago. I'd like go get Marcus Morris back and his brother, and start like putting together like a Marcus Smart fucking like fruit squad. Like just go get like just the fucking just absolute OG.
The Boston Celtics have gotten 36 teams or 36 players suspended.
Yeah, we would set like ejection records.
Just so many records.
It'd be a lot of fun to watch. It'd be like the Pistons back in the day.
Yeah.
Except not as good.
Except not hitting any shots.
Marcus would go on some run. But listen, I think he did both those things. He made him understand both those things. And I think that has stayed true, which is good. I still think that his basketball IQ has gone up. I think that the way he's able to manage a game has gone up. I was even the last one of like me and you and Ray to sort of be like to adopt the acceptance that he was the one like bringing the basketball up all the time and like, you know, being the general. Like I was still like, I don't know, guys. Like, and you were like, no, come on, he's getting better. Give him a chance. And honestly, his performance, his passing and vision in the finals last year, in the playoffs last year, and the way he passes the ball now, like I got no complaints about Marcus Smart being A, our third best player, or B, our absolute starting true point guard. I'm good with it. But in saying that, Mazzulla, I'm not sure he has anything to teach those three guys. You know, I'm not sure he has anything like that to impart to those three guys. And it doesn't seem to me like he's gonna make Grant Williams not do the stupid shit that Grant Williams does from time to time either, you know? So, I mean, I guess it might be a little fuddy-duddy of me to say that I want like an older, more experienced coach to come up here, but that's fine. We can just leave it there. I don't want to go down a fucking bash Joe Mazzulla train because he's only lost 11 games this season. It's just I'm playoff focused at this point with this team. I'm constantly thinking about what we're going to look like in the postseason because of the kind of team that we are. And I just get a little bit worried about that because I think that's when you really see who a coach is.
Yeah, no,
and I don't want to waste a year.
I completely agree with that. Where it's like, what? So projecting what we are as a regular season team to the postseason is so tough, and it's especially tough for a coach because if you were to take Ime last year. Or Ime.
I'm so glad we're back to that. Even though he got fired for being a pervert.
There's so many things in between.
His name up. Long-time listeners to the podcast will understand that Bobby has not been
like
his name right since we hired him.
From day fucking one, bro.
Day dot.
But yeah, I mean, you know, to project that out is tough because if you were to project out that coaching projection last year, any of us, everyone would have been like, no way. There's no way he would have been able to take that team to what they got to. He did. But at the same time, it's tough to see Mazzulla as he's definitely more passive than Udoka. I can't even say his last name. Udoka was. And there's no doubt about that. You know what I mean? You see that from the way he interacts with the team. There's way more passiveness when it comes to the timeouts, when it comes to, you know, disciplining the players. Even in the media. You remember Udoka, he used to criticize these guys straight up.
Yeah, he didn't give a fuck.
And
I was a little worried about that at the start because I was like, I don't know, man, they're a fickle bunch.
But Mazzulla doesn't do that. So like it almost
we're about to take a break, and I think I understand what you're saying, and it's not great for podcasting because you're trying to get yourself an hour of content, but I think it can be boiled down to the simplest possible explanation. The simplest possible explanation is
I like it.
We've seen what kind of coach this team reacts to.
Yeah.
And Mazzulla's not that. So I'm not saying he's done a bad job. I'm just saying I want them to have if Ime was the coach still and we went through that bad run out in the West Coast, we'd be like, well, he'll get him back around. But instead, the fan base right now is going, fuck. No, do we suck under Mazzulla? Do we, are we not? Are we doing that thing again? Because he does have some Brad Stevens tendencies, and we have looked like we have some of those kind of bad habits.
That's
just
a comparison, bro.
Before you guys heard all about that wonderful thing that we're trying to sell you, whatever it was, we were talking about Brad Stevens. Obviously, Mazzulla's a Brad Stevens guy. He, Ime kept him on when he came in. He wasn't an Ime hire. He's, I guess you could glean from the Brad Stevens school of basketball in that case. I think we play a lot of that kind of stuff, and when it worked really well, and we did it with worse players. Some of the same players that weren't as good back in the day. So maybe it looks a little bit more efficient from time to time. Also, it's not 100% a replica of Brad Stevens basketball because, we're not defending like Ime had us doing, but we've talked ad nauseum about how we kind of feel like we shouldn't have to for this good, right? Tatum's got that inside game now, and his ability to read when he should go up and try and score at the rim has come on leaps and bounds. He's a completely different player than the last time that Brad Stevens coached this team. But I would love it if Mazzulla would, I guess like Ime, to me, it's like he treated everybody the same. And that seemed to work. Like you couldn't get away with shit just because you were Jayson Tatum. So you saw Tatum complain to the refs less. You saw him, like a lot of his bad habits that are more emotional or mental or whatever, those went away under Ime, and you saw it happen. I'm not saying they'd come back and force in the same way under Mazzulla, but if they do, if stuff like that does start to rear its ugly head, is that the guy you want being like, hey, Jayson, hey, maybe don't shoot so much. It's just like, maybe we can just get somebody that's just a little bit more forthright and direct. You know what I mean? Like that's a possibility. No, I'm not saying fire him. I know it sounds like that. I'm not saying fire Joe Mazzulla. I'm not saying that, but there is moments in the regular season, and like tonight, we're down fucking 20 against the Thunder.
Jesus Christ, bro. We're almost down 30.
Yeah, and it's like, we've talked about that, them not defending because they don't have to, and it is a grind, and it is like the dog days of fucking January, and all these are true points, but they still can defend, right? Like they're gonna still do that because it just doesn't seem like it's in the arsenal anymore all of a sudden.
Yeah,
in games like this,
let's address the fact that this game right now. So we're live right now. It is 90-63. We're getting absolutely stomped by the Oklahoma City Thunder without SGA, without their best player.
Yeah,
and that's not even a comparison. SGA is by far their best player. It's like Jayson Tatum to us.
Yeah, except not as good.
Except not even close to as good. And we're getting absolutely dominated by them. I just feel like this is a point where it's like, listen, I hear you, Celtics Twitter. I know all the complaints and all the gripes that are going to come out about this team after this game. I would just say that, like, I don't know if I trust Mazzulla to rebound. What do you think happens after this game? So actually, let me rephrase this. What do you think happens in the press conference after this game when they asked Mazzulla what happened? Because if they come back and win this game, yes, one of the best wins of the year, but I don't see that happening. So what happens in this press conference? Does he call anyone out, or is this more, of a roadblock in the way?
But we're gonna get stock answers again, right? It's gonna be like, well, I just think we need to a lot of our shots didn't fall, and obviously if this happens, and that this happened during this period, it's like, there's a lot of that shit going on, unfortunately, and the players are gonna be like, oh, well, we know we got to do better, and like da-da-da. And it's like, to me, it's less about what they say in the press conference and more about trying to imagine how Joe Mazzulla is received in the locker room after a loss like this. It's like, if that was Ime Udoka, and look, we talked about why that dude got fucking fired. I don't know. Like, I don't know what happened. Like, I don't know. Like, we might be talking
up for debate at this point. Yeah.
I don't give a shit anymore. It is what it is. Like, he's gone, right? And I don't know if we're talking about a guy who did a better job than the guy we have now, and that guy was like, I don't know, fucking forcing himself on people, or like what he was doing. I have no clue. All I know is he was like a better basketball coach when it came to situations like this. So, and I don't mean to make light of that, but it just sort of is what it is at this point inside the Celtics organization. If you can picture Ime Udoka in the locker room after a loss like this, and we had a few of these at the first half of the season last season, he'd be like, "What the fuck was that? What were you guys doing out there? You weren't running enough. You weren't doing this. You weren't doing that." And everybody be getting theirs. Tatum would be getting it just as much as everybody else too. I'm not sure that I could fathom, like, unless he has this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde personality, like to the media and like completely different to the guys in the locker room. Maybe. But the way that the players talk about him, it's like, yeah, I love Joe. It's like, you almost put the word little in there. It's like, I love little Joe. He's great. Love having him around, And I just think that, to me, is it's like what's he doing if he's not doing that? What's he doing if he's not giving him shit when they play like shit and motivate him to try harder? Like, what's he there to do? Like, call plays? It's like, I mean, at this point, we know the kind of basketball we play, and we know what we're doing out there. We know the X's and O's. So we could come back, though, actually. It could happen.
I mean, it's very possible.
Right now. It's 90-69 right now. It could happen. But then it's like, we're not giving Joe Mazzulla that credit if that happens, right? We're just going to give him shit if we lose. So
no, but I feel like it comes down more to the point where it's like, so Jayson Tatum right now, right? 13 points, and he's not playing his best game. Is that how important this dude is to our squad? Is that what he really means? Where it's like, because we saw this in the finals, man, and it comes back to this point where it's like, is he actually that important to our run? Can we not do it without Jayson Tatum hitting that upper echelon elite status of players? Like, is Jalen enough? Is Horford enough? Is Smart enough? Because that's been the kind of common denominator amongst these games, right? Any game we have off is like, what was that game a couple weeks ago where Tatum went like one of 7 from 3. It was the Pacers game, yes.
Yeah.
Where he was just
brutal.
He was brutal.
Yeah.
And they got smoked that game. So is that what really matters to this team? Does it not matter what Mazzulla does? Does it not matter what Jalen does? Is Tatum what makes this team go around?
I mean, yeah, that's honestly, I think if you break it down, not to bring down the whole fucking house of cards here, but I think if you break it down sport to sport, you look at basketball. Basketball is a strong link sport. You're only as good as your best guy. In football, for example, you're as good as your worst guy. If your worst guy is catching a punt, right, and he muffs that shit, and the other team gets it, you lose that game. So that's a weak link sport, right? You need your weak link on your team to be stronger than the other teams.
Kelvin Joseph on the Dallas Cowboys.
We talk about this kind of stuff all the time. You watch him get torched on a regular basis, or like Trayvon Diggs isn't having a good game and he's getting fucking torched. You lose that game. If Jayson Tatum plays one of his best games in a basketball setting, the chances of the Celtics winning that game are astronomically high. Right. So this is what I'm talking about with people like, oh, you can't trade Grant Williams. This is exactly what I'm talking about. It does just matter how good fucking Jayson Tatum is, and a little bit how good Jaylen Brown is. That actually is the truth of basketball. You can put together a great team. You can put Scottie Pippen with Michael Jordan. You can put Klay Thompson or Kevin Durant with Steph Curry. But why did we lose the finals? Yeah, okay, Jayson Tatum, but also Steph fucking Curry. That dude was on an absolute mission to beat us in the finals. And when Steph Curry, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, is on a mission like that, good chance you're not winning. If we can get Jayson Tatum on a mission like that, everything we've talked about tonight, like I said, don't want to bring down the whole house of cards, but everything we've talked about tonight doesn't matter. Rob Williams doesn't matter. Joe Mazzulla doesn't matter. Grant Williams sure as fuck doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it is about him. And I also think the tandem that he has with Jaylen Brown, I think, is also super important, because I love looking at a box score and being like, oh, Jaylen got 33 and Jayson got 33. Like, I love how much parity they have in their scoring. I love how they do it in different ways. I think that we're bordering on the point where Jaylen Brown's mid-range shot is automatic. And I think that can also win you a playoff game, if not series.
Just step back, bro.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I love how it hits the rim. It's got a specific sound.
Yes.
Oh my God. It's my
yes.
favorite jump shot in all of basketball right now. And he's on our team and I love it. I really do. It's like, I think the last time I loved a jump shot this much, because it's strong. Like it's just like the rest of his game. It's strong. He does it with intention and he goes right fucking up in the air and he goes up like 6 inches fucking higher than anybody else jumping a jump shot because of how athletic he is. And the stroke is nice. I think the last time I loved a jump shot this much, it was Ray Allen's, to be 100% honest with you. I think it's been this long since I've been like, oh, please just take that shot. And if you remember watching the playoffs last year as a podcast, I wouldn't shut up about his mid-range game during those playoff series. I was like, just go to jail in the mid-range.
He had 7 turnovers, but those mid-range
I'd be like, just go to him in the mid-range. That's because he didn't go to him in the mid-range enough. But also, that's another thing that I think that like they've sort of figured out as a team. And I don't know if this is Joe Mazzulla. I don't know if it's them and their basketball IQ is just going up. But it's like he's found a way to be so much more efficient off 2 dribbles and not, just dribbling it up and down the court and like losing it, as opposed to like trying to drastically improve his hands. And his handles have gotten better, but man, he's gotten better. He's just gotten more efficient. It's just like dribble, shoot, or dribble, jump, and it's like that's the way his game has developed, and I think it's come along, and it's why we're just as good. So, yes, to answer your question in a long-winded way, yes, how Jayson Tatum plays is all that matters, except for how Jaylen Brown plays, I think would be my answer. So I think those are the 2 factors. So we can talk about Joe Mazzulla till we're fucking blue in the face, but at the end of the day, your best players just got to cook. You got to let them cook. But I think the thing that concerns me is we don't play defense anymore. And I'm starting to think that if you don't use it, you lose it. You think it's just like we're just going to turn it on in the playoffs? I don't know. I think we had an advantage on other teams because we were playing defense coming into the playoffs last year.
Agreed. Yeah, no. When it comes to defense too, is like, listen, we're 4 minutes away from being into the fourth. We're already over 100 against the fucking Thunder. So I think they're shooting over 60% on us at this moment.
It's bad.
That's inexcusable, man, especially without their best player. So I feel like it's not to like correlate to it, but I feel like it's very NFL kind of base, where it's like you have these teams that are playing great defense going into the playoffs, and those are the teams that you're most scared of, man.
Yeah.
Those are the teams that you're terrified
100%.
of, where it's like the 49ers, where it's like these teams that like, you're not scoring more than 28 points against them. It's a defined fact that that's not happening. And that's what it was like for the Celtics last year, where it's like, listen, you're not scoring 100 points on us. That's not. It's beyond a reason of a doubt that you're scoring 100 points on us. It's not going to happen. So for you to beat us, you need to stop us.
Yeah, where'd that go though? Was that Ime? Is that what you're saying?
I think it might be, man. I think it might be where it's to the point where the intensity was to a different level. Where like I said earlier, is like where Mazzulla came in, where it's like, I don't know if that intensity is there, and I don't want to put this all in like we need a Doka, but like
we're not getting him, so it's like there's no he's not.
No, he's not going. That's 100% fact. But like, can this team get to that same defensive intensity? Because that's at the end of the day, right? Like we can talk all about Tatum, we talk all about Brown, we can talk about Williams making his 3-point shots, Hauser coming in being hot. We can talk about Derek White possibly get it. None of that fucking matters if you're gonna let 108 points to the Thunder before the end of the fucking fourth quarter. Or
I think it's like it showed in like what Giannis looked like by the time we got to game 7 of that series. By the time we got to game 7 of that series, he was cooked because we might have let him get his down from time to time, but he was fucking exhausted. Then unfortunately, by the time we got to the finals, so are we. So that's gonna do it for Celtics talk here on the 617. Obviously thoughts are with Damar Hamlin, and we really hope he recovers. I hope the next time we're on a podcast, we're talking about good news and fucking thoughts and prayers for this goddamn Celtics team, because they're getting absolutely crushed by a bunch of fucking guys with other jobs. So that'll do it for myself and the real BK Bob Kelly. This has been the 617 by the Boston fans for the Boston fans.